Hi, everyone, and welcome to You Can Do It Too, a podcast highlighting regular folks who followed their dreams and made it happen. I'm Joan Hutchinson, your restaurant maven. I've been described as a risk taker, though I never thought of myself that way. My mom always told me I could do or be whatever I wanted as long as I set my mind to it, and I believed her. I've moved across the country more than once, was an actor in LA doing theater, independent films, and even stand-up. I ran a successful catering company that led to owning and operating an award-winning Southern California restaurant. All this prior to earning a bachelor's degree in business management and marketing. Listen, you don't need a degree to accomplish your dreams. You need drive, passion, and belief in yourself, along with some caring folks who support you and believe in you. Since then, I've gone on to work in country clubs, casinos, a culinary school, and hotels. I've been coaching and consulting with small business owners for the last few years and blogging with business advice. I wanted to do more, to share more, to reach more of you. I decided to talk with folks I admire. Lots of amazing 30-somethings, even some remarkable 20-somethings, and of course, more seasoned folks who kick ass at what they do. To show you, you can do it too. All right. Thank you all for joining me today. Today I'm talking with Chef Matt Borchardt, independent restaurateur. I met Matt through working at Lake Cole Culinary in St. Louis, where he was associate culinary director. He was then promoted to director when the school opened a second location called Lake Cole Culinary Academy for Culinary Development, and he spearheaded the opening of that operation. Matt was itching to do his own thing, but did a stint as a consulting chef for a fast casual concept. And now it's been 7 years that Chef Matt Borchardt and his wife, Mary Beth, have owned and operated Edibles and Essentials Market and Cafe in St. Louis, and they are still going strong. Thanks so much for joining me, Matt. Awesome. So I wanted to talk with Matt because he had an idea for a unique business and he made it happen. A source for specialty food products and a restaurant. It's such a cool, different kind of restaurant. Some folks might not have understood his idea, but for anyone living in or visiting St. Louis, you must stop at Edibles and Essentials. Great food, a super cool vibe. He's got live music going on here and there. So Matt, can you tell us about your original idea for Edibles and Essentials and what spurred you to open it?
Yeah, I mean, I always wanted my own place. Your intro kind of nailed it. Didn't have a degree, worked my ass off. Took a lot of notes, and always wanted to have my own place. And I didn't really want a full restaurant. I think I wanted a place where we would sell, pots and Le Creuset and knives and jams and jellies and cutting boards, and at the same time sell some charcuterie and some fresh cut steaks and maybe a panini or two, some coffees, and so kind of like an all around gastronomical city, if you will, like real small on a small scale, a couple people and that's it. But the neighborhood where I was in, or where we opened Edibles and Essentials, once we opened, really had a demand for a restaurant, and and that's what we've become and have been now for the last 7 years, is really a full-fledged restaurant. I mean, we do some retail items anymore, but most of the shelves are stocked with mise en place or prep items, or kitchen staples that we just need the shelving for now. So but we
Right.
still have some retail. But I wanted it to be Edibles and Essentials, so that you can come in, get a good bite to eat, or take home some bites to eat, and then have some kitchen staples, essentials that you need a good chef or home chef needs in their pantry.
Right.
And so
Which I love.
that's where it started, and obviously it's evolved much more than that.
So your original idea was more market and a little bit of a restaurant, a little bit of taste here and there.
Absolutely. Yeah,
So
absolutely. I mean, the name was Market and Cafe because I wanted the focus to be as a market, but it didn't take long for the neighborhood. I guess, we were pretty good with the food, so it didn't take long, and that's really what we saw. That
right.
was the need, so, and I had the
So
kitchen space to do it. So
So when you're saying that the neighborhood wanted a restaurant, so you were selling some things that were like they could come and pick up a salad or they could pick up something, right? Is that right?
Sure. Yeah, we still do some of that. We still make the best chicken salad in St. Louis and tuna salad and local eggs and marinated olives and things like
Hmm.
that out of our deli cases and a lot of retail wine. So but I thought we were going to do a lot more of that.
Right.
When I wanted to or when I opened the restaurant, at least that's what I wanted to do.
Uh-huh.
I didn't want to cook in a hot kitchen anymore.
Right. But you do now. Well, you don't have
Hmm.
to cook all the time though, right? It's been 7 years, so hopefully you get to step away now and again.
With the especially with given the last couple of years with the pandemic, there's been ebbs and flows in the way the business is operated. I've had to wear many different hats.
Yeah.
Whether I work in the front of house or in the kitchen, and those things have certainly changed through the course of the 7 years. We just turned seven earlier this month, so
Congratulations for that, because that is
yeah,
huge
thanks.
for a restaurant. I mean, good job.
Well,
um,
thanks. It feels like it's been like 25 years sometimes, but
you're also one other thing when talking about the concept is you have your guests order at the bar or at the counter, and then the food is brought to them, which I think is such a smart concept, especially after COVID. I mean, labor is so difficult, and what was that your original thought? Or,
I, you know, all along we were going to be a counter service restaurant. People would order at the counter. They were given a number with a name.
Mhm,
Nowadays it's names because we have such a regular clientele. Everyone's on a
mhm,
first name basis for a lot of them. But and then we would bring the food out. That was always the plan. And then COVID came. It was actually, I was fortunate. We didn't have to do much different.
mhm,
We didn't have to change our concept or we didn't have to change our philosophy. We always did a lot of to-go orders. We always had online ordering. We had a patio, and you've seen it, a beautiful patio out back,
mhm.
and we already had an enclosure for it. So we were able to sit out there in the winter, that first winter when COVID came, and everyone was scrambling to figure out ways to do outdoor dining and still be warm.
Mhm.
So yeah, and then with the concept of like counter service and bringing food for you, or when we weren't even doing dining, we were just bagging it and leaving it on the counter. People would come in with their names, get their food, and
Mhm.
so really, I count my blessings. I was fortunate that COVID didn't necessarily disrupt uh, my business, the way I operated my business for the most part.
Right. And I wonder what people thought at first. I mean, was that a learning curve? Because places with good food that aren't Panera, people aren't used to that where they order at the counter and then it's brought to them.
That's funny. Even today, I mean, even last night at dinner service, there was people to come walking in and they didn't. You can tell when they've maybe been there the first time because it is a unique
Hmm.
atmosphere. Or when you first walk in, it's very welcoming, but at the same right, you can see that hesitation sometimes from people,
Hmm.
and so it is still a learning curve. But yeah, but our staff and myself and we're all trained well enough how to handle it, and make everyone feel welcomed, and show them the ropes, and make them feel welcomed and comfortable right away.
Yeah, I think, and your team does a great job. I mean, I have brought new people there, and every one of them has just loved it. So uh, it hasn't even been even a thought that they're ordering at the counter and going and having the food brought. But
Right. And every now and again, it's not for everyone. Every now and again, we get some people that think it's weird that they have to get up and get their own beer out of the beer fridge, which has, 40 different local craft beers. It's a beautiful sight.
hmm.
But, I think they're used to that uh, service aspect where
Right.
they don't have to get up to do anything. And that's not the way we are. We are, if you want another glass of wine and we are not there at your table, feel welcome to come up and order a glass of wine at the counter on your tab, and that's how we do things. And then, quite honestly, because of that, I didn't even accept tips. I don't know if you remember. Well, I didn't even accept tips the first couple of years, like not at all. We did not, only cash tips. We did not even have an option on a credit card
That's right. I remember
for
saying
for
something to you
people
about
to
that.
leave a credit card tip, because I felt like it was a counter service restaurant, and they were not being served as they would in a or at a full service restaurant.
Right.
And I just thought, we would provide that service. And then again, things have evolved through the years, and we started, nicer food. And when I first started, we were doing plastic silverware and pie tins. All the food was in. Now, we do have china and silverware. So real glassware and stuff like that now. So, but so it has evolved through the years. But the style of service is unique to some degree that you see at a Panera. You order at the counter, same thing. Sometimes we get a line. Sometimes we get a line. Those are good nights when we have a line,
Right.
For me. And then so, we do have a line, and then I'll jump in and help out, and, but yeah, and that's the way we do it. And people order at the counter, we bring you now, and a lot of times, because we're so quick with the drinks and we have a team, a lot of times people wait right there for their drinks while we're making their initial cocktail, while they take the menu, go sit down to TV, or table. So
Yeah, I think that people are gonna. I see that as the future of a lot of restaurants, actually. Especially now with labor being what it is everywhere, and for restaurants especially.
yeah, and it's like I said, I've been fortunate. I've been blessed that I didn't have to change my module too much. So but I think it is a good concept.
It's a great one, and you were a forward-thinking guy, obviously.
I don't know about that, but I think I got lucky too. There's a lot of luck that plays into it.
Well, you were smart. You got a great location. So you also had a food truck. So was that food truck before Edibles and Essentials? Was it after?
Well, it's funny. The truck itself came after the restaurant. However, when I opened a restaurant, I wanted to open a food truck, and I was in the market for a commissary. And I spent I was doing some consulting work at the time, and I knew that was coming to an end, and I knew it was time for me to do my own thing. And so I wanted to do a food truck, and not
a
the type of
restaurant.
food truck right. But excuse me, not even the same food truck that I have, or had a totally different concept. And so I was driving around every day looking for commissaries to buy or rent. And then I stumbled onto the property, which I ended up buying and putting the restaurant into. And I thought, well, it's too cool of a building to use as a commissary for a food truck, right? Like, and so I'm like, well, screw it, we'll do the restaurant first. And so I did a restaurant. And then a year and a half into the restaurant, I was getting, the itch to do additional things, and was being approached by a second location of the restaurant, or doing things in some other venues in the St. Louis area, and declined all those. And I thought, well, maybe now's a good time to do a food truck. And I was going to do a food truck, a different style of food, but I had these French fries on the menu, and they were pretty good. And one night, my brother and I were literally sitting at the edge of the bar on this very computer, researching used food trucks to buy for a concept totally different. And some gentleman walks out of the patio and into the dining room on the way out, and looked at me and slammed his hands on the bar and said, "Those are the best fucking French fries I've ever had in my life." And I kind of looked at my brother and I'm like, well,
there you go.
There it is. We're going to do a French fry food truck. And seriously, I mean, it changed just like that. The concept changed immediately, and we decided to do essentially fries. It was a French fry food truck,
which is awesome. So, I mean, you just know how to duck and weave. Just seems to be your thing.
We were pretty lucky. It was a pretty popular truck for sure.
Yeah, and then was it? Well, you would think food trucks would do well during COVID, except for the labor, right?
You kind of cut out there for me, but a minute. But I think the demise of the truck, I mean, just after COVID, it was hard to find staffing for it. I lost an employee. He moved on, and who was running the truck, and it was hard to find someone that I was going to be able to trust again. I think,
Mm-hmm.
the cost of oil still is through the roof. The cost of potatoes were, everything was, and it was sitting there in my driveway at the restaurant as a big billboard. And I thought, even if I found someone to hire to run the truck, I don't know if I have a trust issue. That's why I have a small restaurant. And so I just was like, you know what? And then I just kind of threw it out there to the food truck community that, I might be interested in selling it. And lo and behold, out of the blue, someday someone walked in and offered me money for just the truck and not the concept. And I couldn't refuse it. So it was a no brainer. It was
Nice.
done, the deal in 24 hours. And, you know, I missed the food truck and, missed the concept for sure, but I don't miss the headaches.
Right. St.
But it
Louis
was a
has.
good food truck. It was a popular food truck. It was the only French frying food truck, and that's all we did was French fries loaded with, we did the nacho fries or the Euro fries or the pulled pork fries. And so, it was fun.
I mean, I don't think I've ever seen a fried food truck, so it makes sense that it was popular, and St. Louis has lots
Right.
of them. So
Yeah.
yeah.
We'll fry anything in this town.
Well, speaking of frying, your
I,
famous dish.
the fried ribs, I was just going to, yeah. Yeah, we had a private party at the restaurant last night, and I think we served about 80 of them, individual ribs to the guests of the party. It was fun. A lot of them had never had them before, so they were pretty intrigued by them.
Yeah. Yeah, it's fun. It's a fun thing to eat, I think. You're speaking of catering, you've been doing a lot of catering, huh?
Yeah, especially this past week. So, but yeah, it's we were fortunate. Business is good, and we're in a neighborhood and community that supports us. My wife and I try to be friendly people to our staff and to our guests and make it a welcoming place. And I think in return, we get that from the neighborhood.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone enjoys being there. Literally, there are nights. I mean, some of these people have been in my home. My wife and I have gone out and socialized with some of our regular clientele. There are some nights at the restaurant where everyone knows each other. There are people that have become friends with one another that met at our restaurant sitting at the bar, and now they are friends,
Yeah.
and they socialize together. So it's interesting. And we, and this, just Thursday night or Wednesday night this past week, we had a family come in and they have a 2-year-old toddler running around. And I remember when they were coming in before they were even married. So I watched
Mm-hmm.
them through their engagement, through their marriage, and then children. And, so we get a lot of that from the neighborhood.
It makes sense that you are a nice guy. Both you and Mary Beth are easy to talk to people, so it makes sense that they support you and you're busy. So that's good. You get a
Yeah,
lot
we're
of
pretty
press.
fortunate.
I mean, you do get a lot of press. So your place is a hit. So you get a lot of press, right? How'd you
We
get
do.
the
And
word
we're
out
lucky.
when you first opened?
I struggled with that. I feel like because I didn't have, and I still don't believe I have a lot of fanfare. We're not the, but it was a lot of word of mouth. A lot of, I think that's my guests telling each other, their friends when they left, how great of a meal they had, and
Mm-hmm.
that I don't spend a lot of money in advertising. Maybe I should, but I don't, and so I rely on that word of mouth and having. We put a lot of care into everything we do with the food and the hospitality and all and having a good value. So I figure long ago that was going to speak for itself.
Mm-hmm. Wow.
That was
Yeah.
what's going to sell my restaurant.
Is the care and the good service that you're giving.
I believe in that.
Yeah, because advertising and marketing is pretty expensive. So if you're not careful, it could take up way too much of your budget. So
I honestly, it's funny you said. I mean, I honestly would rather, yeah. That's why I would rather use real butter and everything than not, instead of paying money for advertising, right? Because you don't know where that money's going. But if I know if I'm putting a better product into the cookies or, or the scallop dish or whatever it is, then
Mhm.
that's going to speak better than the money I might have, or to spend better than the money I would have spent on advertising. Maybe, I don't know,
Wow,
but it's
that's
something I've thought about before.
I like that way of thinking. That makes sense. It's a little scary, but
Uh,
look where you are now, 7 years in.
so I'll tell you, there's a lot of luck involved.
You keep saying that, but you
Always
have to
is.
do the work first, and then it seems like you're lucky.
Yeah, well, we do, and my staff works hard too. And I tell we do these wine dinners once a month on Wednesdays now, and I bring the whole staff out after the last course, and I introduce the staff,
Mhm.
and I'm the first one that it's not because of me. It's because of my staff that we're successful. It takes a team. Like there's no way I can do it by myself, and I get the credit, sure, but it's the staff is the number one reason why we are successful because they see that I care, I think, and then especially when it comes to the food and the hospitality, and I think they see that, and then it rubs off on them, and in turn they'll care for the same reason.
So you believe that being a great leader is the best way to get your team to feel like a team and behave the way you want them to?
Yeah, that's kind of how I was taught, in this
Mhm.
business. Like, I have to feel like I had some good mentors that were passionate about food and passionate about treating people the right way, and then I worked for some others that weren't,
Uh-huh.
so I didn't want to be those guys. I wanted to be the guy that that treated everyone with respect and made put a good quality product on a plate every time.
So do you feel like do you do things that are like team building? Um,
I'm not that nice, I guess. No, I mean, I mean, I took him to a baseball game a couple years ago, or well, I guess almost every year. But my staff, they get a meal every day, they get a cocktail every day. We've been known to, I've been known to grab the bottle of Jameson and walk in the kitchen and do a couple shots with the team.
mhm. Nice.
So they eat well,
And that's always a plus. You know,
right?
I've been to places where you get three things to choose from that you can order when you work in a restaurant, and who wants that? No one.
Well, I really believe, it costs me a lot of money, and my bookkeeper like yells at me all the time because I'm giving away thousands of dollars a month
Mhm.
in free food because we ring it up and we keep track of it. But and then you see it at the end of the month, you're like, holy shit, that's a lot of money. But I also want them to know what the food's like.
Yeah, right.
I mean, I want them to know when someone asks, which is I always think a dumb question when someone and comes to your restaurant. Well, is the spinach artichoke good? Well, no, I mean, if it isn't, I wouldn't have it on the menu, first of all. But I want my staff to know how good it is,
Mhm. And that way they can
so they can
describe it.
tell people when
Yeah.
when our guest asks about something, or and then what's in the ingredients? Is there an allergy concern, or or what does it taste like, or is it
Mhm.
spicy or not? I want them to be able to make those decisions and pass that information along.
That's great. So what have you found to be your biggest hurdle as a small business owner?
And there's many of them. It's like I feel like it's like the watching the 110 hurdles where there's 10 of them you have to jump over, Like there's all, you know what I mean? There's not just one, I don't think.
Right.
Uh when I first started it was the bookkeeping paper record, saving receipts, entering them in QuickBooks and paying bills online and QuickBooks and banking and like all and like I was a chef, man. I just wanted to cook,
Mhm.
and I didn't, opening your own business, you gotta start doing all that stuff and you're like now you know I don't have to do those things
I
anymore.
was
I
gonna
do
say now
pay.
you
I
pay
pay people
someone.
to help me with it. I do, and those were some good days when I was But like I said, I also have a trust issue, so I'm also monitoring those things often. But But that was for me, I think one of the biggest ones that I learned was, or biggest hurdle, the first hurdle, I think
Mm-hmm.
was teaching myself how to do those things, and then whether or not I wanted to continue, how to do them and manage running a restaurant from a physical end too, or from on the kitchen side and front of house.
Yeah, you do both. You work in the kitchen and you're out front greeting people, making drinks. I mean,
I mean, there's some days where, especially of late, where I do in the same day both. Really the way a lot it's been going over the last year and a half maybe is I'll spend most of my morning time and daytime while we're closed in the kitchen prepping, setting up the stations, making their and so where my team then comes in and they do their final mise en place for their station, and they're executing on the service end, and maybe I'll spend the evening in the dining room, behind the bar, bartending, or
hmm
maybe taking a night off every now and again too.
which you deserve after putting in 7 years.
It's nice to be able to take some time off when I need to, and I have a good team that I can trust to do that.
Yeah,
So, and
which
my
is
staff is, I've been pretty lucky with that. I mean, I've had, everyone has some turnover, but I've got, let's see, I have two employees that have been there for 5 years plus. I have another employee who's been there for probably 2 years, another one for a year, so over
so
a
you must
year.
be doing something
I
right.
mean, I've been pretty fortunate.
Yeah. So was there a mentor or a group that you turned to for help when you were getting started? I mean, I know you came from the culinary background, but
Yeah, no, I've opened a few restaurants through the years. I did the one at Lake Hole that we had at the school, which, whether you want to call it a real restaurant or not, but at least I went through the construction phase of that part and ordering
right.
stuff like that, that part
Mm-hmm.
of an opening restaurant. And then I did a consulting job for Taze, and we did that group, all from scratch. And then, I helped, way back when I was not, I didn't help because I was young, but I was present when we opened the new Cafe Provençal. And so, I didn't have a say in the matter then, but I've been through restaurant openings. So I kind of knew I did not lean too much on too many people other than some of the areas where I didn't know anything about, like accounting, bookkeeping,
Mm-hmm.
uh, laws.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I hired an attorney, I hired a CPA, I hired a bookkeeper, and then a general contractor, and I let everyone do their thing. And my hope was, and the goal was, that I would get in the kitchen and cook at that point.
Right. I see. So, do you have any advice for someone who's looking to open a restaurant?
I won't say don't do it because the world needs good restaurants. Just don't do it too soon. I remember when I was like in high school, I wanted to do it like, yeah, I was like, oh, when I'm 25 years old, I'm going to have a restaurant. And then, I got to be 25 and I was like, when I'm 30, I'm going to have a restaurant. And then by the time I got to like, and I'm like, shit, now I don't know if I want a restaurant, but, but when so I didn't open, let's see, I'm 48, right? I guess. And so, I was in my 40s, when I opened my restaurant. So don't do it too soon, wait and catch your experience and take notes, pay attention.
Well, it was good that you waited so you had the time to learn all these things and do all those openings. I mean, what a help that was.
Right. Again, I feel like I've been pretty lucky and pretty fortunate to, to have those things happen.
And when you were at the culinary school and they put you in charge of opening that whole
Oh
facility,
yeah,
I mean, that was
we opened two of them for them. That's right. Yeah.
and that was huge. I mean, that was
Yeah, I wasn't even thinking about the academy. I was thinking about the restaurant at the main campus, but then we opened the academy, and yeah, that was a whole another undertaking that we did.
yeah, so I guess that is where you were lucky. You were present. You were there when those things happened, but you did the work to get those jobs.
Right. Best part about that one wasn't my money. That was someone else's money I was spending, and
You get
so
to
that was
learn on
good.
someone else's dime. Which is a good bit of advice if you have the opportunity to learn on someone else's dime,
Oh
right?
yeah, that's why I say keep notes and don't do it too soon. Go work for multiple chefs. Don't get. I tell my staff when I lose a staff member, and they're going on to a a better job or a job under a different chef or a respected restaurant, like, uh, don't be upset. They might be upset that they're leaving me and,
Right.
hey chef, I got to talk to you, like,
Uh,
so it's, and it's like, it's cool, like, go learn, go, do your thing. So that's what I did.
yeah, it's funny that you say that because Lawrence says the same thing. He says, "Well, I don't expect you to be with me forever. If you're going to leave, you need to go somewhere better or go
Right.
learn
Oh
from
yeah.
somewhere else."
If you
Right?
yeah, if you're gonna leave to go work at, a fast food restaurant or out of the industry, like, good riddance. But if you're gonna go in, if you're gonna, because that's the kind of people I hire, though. I make sure, and I tell my staff all the time when I hire people, and every employee has heard it. I don't hire cooks; I hire culinarians.
Hmm.
Because I want people that are passionate. Again, because I'm passionate about food, and I'm not going to waste my time teaching someone that doesn't care. I mean, I'll never forget. I let a kid go once. He wasn't only with me for a few weeks, and he's throwing, the hamburger, but literally from like 5 feet away onto the flat top without buttering them, and like while he was doing something. I'm like, hey man, we don't throw food here, and he's like, it's just a hamburger bun, and I'm like, yeah, well, that's the last hamburger bun you're going to throw because, we
Respect
don't
the
do it here.
food, right?
Right, right, right. And I know it's a little thing, stupid thing, but you know, it,
It's an
it
insight,
is, because
right?
if they treat that like that, then what else are they going to treat,
Right.
without respect, so
Yeah, makes sense. So you have two young boys who are getting older, obviously, but they are growing
I,
up in your restaurant, right?
I try not to put them down there too much. Yeah. But my oldest, when he comes down, he tends to rather hang out with the guys in the kitchen, talk shop, talk
Mm-hmm.
Xbox and
Mm-hmm.
Minecraft and stuff like that, and then my youngest son, he loves putting on his apron and helping to open bottles of wine or clearing plates, or because then he gets the tips too, and
Mm-hmm.
so he comes home with a fat sash, you know stack of cash sometimes. Sometimes when they, yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous how much people will tip him, but
Just
but
because
he
he's
will,
cute, right?
right. I think that has a lot to do with it, but he'll come down, put his apron on, he'll help clear plates and run food. And when we entertain, when Mary Beth and I, on the rare occasion, especially the last 7 years, when we entertain home, he always wants to open the wine bottles at home. But he'll even, like, he'll put his apron on.
Mm-hmm.
Mark, one of my employees, longtime employees, got him an apron with his name on, like a little waiter bib apron
Oh,
with his name on it, engraved on it, a couple of years ago. And so he'll wear that here at the house and want to open bottles of wine on Thanksgiving or Christmas or something.
he's gonna grow up to be a sommelier.
Uh, who knows what he's gonna do? Both of them.
uh, oh, kids, you can't live with them.
I'll be
Can't live
happy if
with
they
them,
get.
right?
I'll be happy if they get through high school at this point. And great,
They will. They will. So thanks so much for joining me today and sharing your knowledge. It's such a pleasure to talk
Yeah.
to
Thanks
you. And
always. Thanks for having me.
all right. So be sure to watch Sunday, November 6th at 6 p.m. Central Time on Facebook and Spotify when my husband, Chef Lawrence Hutchinson, and I talk about the challenges of the restaurant business, and we'll offer our tips for solving those. Why am I doing this podcast? Because it's important to me that we all have it in us to succeed. My guests weren't born into royalty. They're normal people like you and me who saw an opportunity and ran with it. Listen in for tips, tricks, and just plain old inspiration. And be sure to follow You Can Do It Too on Spotify and YouTube soon for all the episodes, which we record every other Sunday at 6 p.m. Central. If you're looking for more specific help with your restaurant hospitality business, check out yourrestaurantmaven.com. Read my blog and connect with me for coaching and consulting opportunities. Thanks again, Matt. And tune in next time, everyone. Thanks for joining us.